Good morning. Welcome to the Community Calendar. I'm Jazze, and today my guest is Councilman Casey Thomas of District 3 in Dallas. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for all you do and engage in the community.
Yes, I'm trying because I understand that we have a huge election coming up, and you have been so active. In the primaries leading up until the presidential election. And why are you so passionate about this particular election in regards to getting people registered to vote and then getting them to the polls?
Well, thank you once again for us having this conversation and inviting me. This election is, and oftentimes we say the most important election of our life, but I truly believe this election is the most important election of our life. We have to be engaged from the top to the bottom of the ballot. Now there's a big push to get people who can be poll watchers and poll workers, because oftentimes when you go to vote, especially early voting, a lot of individuals who are at those polls are our seniors. And because of COVID-19, a lot of seniors are susceptible to catching that particular virus. And so we want to make sure that they're safe, and we, at the same time, we can cover those polling sites. So if you're available, if you're 18 or older, this is a great opportunity for a lot of our young adults and millennials who've lost their jobs because of COVID-19 to not only serve the community, but to make money doing it at the same time. Dallas County Elections Department, 214-819-6300. You can contact them. They are looking for, last count, 150 people to work out at the polls during early voting and on election day.
Yes, and I want to stress that this is not $10 an hour. They're paying a little bit more than that. So it's a good amount that they're paying just to be a poll worker. And, you're also helping the community at the same time. And, some people, they need to do community service hours or something like that. So you really need to look into that in regards to not only helping out your community, but also making some extra money at the same time. So that's a great point that you're bringing up. Now, you started a group on Facebook. It's called Our Vote is Our Voice. Can you hear us now? I'm in the group, and I see it is very active. You guys are really going to be active in regards to getting people registered. I'm sorry, not registered, but to the polls for early voting. So I want to first start as to why did you start this group on Facebook and invite other people listening to the interview to join the Facebook group? Again, it's called Our Vote is Our Voice. Can you hear us now?
Thank you, Jazze. I just sent an email to the Dallas Mavericks Foundation, and I was telling them this very same thing, so you get an opportunity to relive it. So what happened is, in July, and one of the roles that I serve with the city is Mayor Johnson appointed me chair of our COVID-19 ad hoc committee on economic and social recovery. And so right around July is when we first began seeing the cases escalate. Ironically, the council is on recess the month of July, and so I found myself working throughout the recess. And so as the cases began to escalate up to 750, up to 1,000, we had 18 days where we had cases at 1,000 and above. What my concern became was we have a runoff election, very important runoff election was taking place in July. People may not feel safe going to vote. So I just posted on my Facebook page, how many of you be interested in helping get people out to vote in July? Got an overwhelming response, and from there, we created the Facebook group, Our Vote is Our Voice, Can You Hear Us Now? At the same time, George Floyd had just been murdered. People were out protesting. So we had social unrest. We had historic number of cases of COVID-19, all at the same time. And I was really concerned about people actually going to vote. So what we were able to do was, by creating the Facebook group, it was a way to encourage people who are out protesting, marching in the streets, to march to the polls. Mm-hmm. So we immediately began saying, okay, what are the things that we can do to engage people that we personally know to go out and vote? And so we partnered with the National Panhellenic Council of I-9, the Dallas Alumni Chapter, to do a march to the polls. They just did a huge march from the Martin Luther King Center to City Hall. I got a chance to participate. Said, let's take the next step. Let's march to the polls. So they did a march to the polls. A new organization, Not My Sons, they had become a part of the effort. They were doing a lot of protesting and holding panel discussions. So we challenged them. They did a march to the polls. They had 50 young adults that met at City Hall, and they did their rally, and they marched to El Centro downtown. 50 went and voted, all under the age of 25. And so seeing that energy, seeing people really, taking advantage of it, I had a chance to reach out to Tony Pippenspool, who is the Dallas County Election Administrator. She happens to live in my district. And so I said, Tony, what would be a good number for us to set as a goal to make sure that we get for people to go out and vote in this primary election? She said 35 to 45,000. Okay. By the last day of early voting, we had exceeded that goal.
Wow.
1,000 people in Dallas County that went out and voted. And I don't take credit as far as our coalition, but we played a role in energy and in creating voter roll calls on our Facebook page and things of that nature to really get people out to vote. Something I really enjoyed. And when you bring millennials in and give them opportunity for amazing things, one of my mentors, his name is Sean Reed. He was the political outreach, civic engagement chair for the Dallas-Fort Worth Urban League Young Professionals. Sean is the lead of our group. And so Sean, along with Ruben Leal, who's also an Urban League Young Professional, came up with this great idea to do something called Caravan to the Polls. And because at that time, it really wasn't safe for a lot of people just to be standing around at the polls, what we did is we did a caravan. We met at a Forrester Field House, had about 60 cars, decorated the cars, and we drove through 3 neighborhoods that have a historically low voter turnout. We drove through the South Dallas area, we through Pleasant Grove, ended in Oak Cliff at the Oak Cliff Sub Courthouse. So we drove through those neighborhoods, blew our horns.
Yes.
And it was some of the most fun I had in a long time. We're going to do it again. It was so.
I was about to say, you got to do it again.
Oh, absolutely. And this time we have 2 weekends of early voting. We have the weekend of October 7th and 18th, and we have October 24th and 25th. And we're going to section off this time. We may have 1 in Oak Cliff, 1 in Pleasant Grove, 1 in South Dallas, but they'll caravan through neighborhoods and stop at the early voting location, that particular neighborhood. And I mean, that was really, really exciting. We did that on election day in July. I think July 14th was the election. So we did it actually on election day. That day was when we did the caravan. So this time we're going to do it during early voting.
Yes.
The community-based partners that want to participate, we love to have 300 cars at each location.
Yes, we want to invite everybody to come join you guys. And that's how they're going to get the details, by joining the Facebook group. Our vote is our voice. Can you hear us now? So we want to really blow this out the water. Like you said, those areas where people don't normally go vote, you want to make it feel exciting, like this is something that they need to do, that they have to do, because it really is. And you pointed out early voting. When exactly does early voting start, and when does it end, and why is it important to take advantage of early voting?
Early voting this year starts October 13th. It ends October 30th. Why is it important? And I'm telling everybody, October 13th is election day. I'm just telling them, go vote the first day. One, you get it out of the way personally, but 2, you can help so many other people. A lot of misinformation that's being put out about absentee voting or mail-in voting, which is the same thing. We have a lot of misinformation about actually when early voting is, what day election day is, because if you can convince someone that election day is November the 4th, then what you've done is that's a perfect example of voter suppression. You suppress the vote. We had a chance to partner with an event, and a good friend of mine is Dave Mays. He's the founder and executive editor a Source magazine. They hosted something called a Hip Hop Political Convention. It was virtual this year. Had some of the best minds in hip hop and in social activism, political activism, all a part of this conversation. And it was around voter suppression. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we've got to make sure our young adults, the hip hop generation, young and old, are involved and engaged in not just this election, but being aware of what the issues are and knowing that their vote does count and their voice is their vote. If you don't vote, then you're voiceless. Then you know.
Someone else make that decision for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Vote. It's crazy how some people think my vote don't count. Yes, it does. And not only in the presidential election, which that's when people really want to vote, but also in the midterms, you know, where you have your Senate races, because as we see now, there's people in the Senate because we did not go out and vote. We sat down. And so when you put a president in, but you have a Senate that doesn't pass anything that the president is trying to do, it doesn't work that way. And we're really feeling the effects of it now that Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has passed away. So now there could be a lot of changes on the Supreme Court, which could overturn a lot of really big rulings, you know, which people talk about Roe v. Wade and the Affordable Care Act with the pre-existing conditions. And, you know, some people are born with diabetes. So you don't want your insurance carrier charging you for something you were born with. So it is crazy, but we have to go and vote, because if we don't, these Supreme Court justices, these senators, all this stuff about the kids going back to school too soon, your governors, all of that stuff, it may not be on the ballot this time, but it will be in 2 years. And we have to continue what you're doing now. Our vote is our voice. Can you hear us now? Because it's a lot of stuff that we have to change. And so it's so important that we get people out to vote. And I'm so glad that you're including the millennials in this.
Oh, definitely. It's something, Jazze, I'm really excited about. And I know with Facebook friends, we're taking it to the next level.
Yes.
Thing that I noticed when we were having a lot of the marches and the protests and things of that nature, there's a lot of people would show up for the marches and the protests because they thought, you know, what was happening in the country was wrong. And it absolutely is. Police brutality in any form is wrong. However, there was no training that was taking place around the marches or between the march. People just show up and march and wouldn't know what the desired outcome was. Mm-hmm. Big announcement. We are kicking off Civic Engagement 101.
Okay.
Actual weekly training sessions on how to mobilize people to vote, how to know what the issues are that are going on locally and at the state level. We're doing it at 4 Oak Cliff in Glendale Shopping Center, right next to Pan African Connection. And what we're looking to do is, because of social distancing, capacity is going to be 25 people. And so we're having people start today. They can sign up. They can call my office, 214-670-0772. And they can, or send my secretary, yolanda.miller@dallascityhall.com, an email to sign up. We're taking the first 25 people. We have space set aside for high school students. So it's going to be intergenerational. They're going to be learning how to organize, how to mobilize, all in a multi-generational setting. I'm really excited about it. We're going to be at 6 o'clock to 7:30 every Thursday leading up till December 17th. So we're not going to stop once the election is over.
No.
We're focused on our upcoming state legislative session. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of training to do. And so I'm really, really excited about our next step through Our Vote is Our Voice. Can you hear us now? Where we're going to do action on the ground, in-person training. And we're working right now to be able to broadcast live on Facebook the sessions for those.
I was going to ask that, since it's so limited, you know, what if people want to still participate and see and hear everything that's being said and still feel like they're part of something, even if they can't make it?
We want to be able to live stream it through Facebook and through Instagram. I'm learning how to get on Instagram. I'm an Instagram infant. So I need to get, I know that's what a lot of
Yeah, you want to get the
You're
you're gonna have to
Yeah.
get on Instagram,
I'm on
Councilman.
my way. I'm on my way. I'm learning. So we want to use Facebook, Instagram, and other social media mechanisms to be able to, and if we can, record these training sessions.
Yes.
So keep
You
that
can go back,
information.
listen to them. You can go back and hear. Yes, yes, you definitely need to do that.
I'm really excited about, this effort to really train people, because we haven't had this kind of training on the ground since the 60s with the civil rights movement. So it's going to be a spinoff of the Freedom Schools. Name, I would have loved to, but that's copyrighted. So we're calling it Civic Engagement 101.
I see. Well, look, it worked for the civil rights movement. We got a lot done then. And so it's going to work now because we're going to get a lot done this time around. And so I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. And this isn't the last of our conversations. We're going to come back and revisit the things that you're doing, and we're going to get the radio station involved in regards to the caravans and all that stuff. We got to get this community engaged, excited about what we can do in regards to our voices being heard via the vote. Yes. Early voting starts October 13th until October 30th. Election Day is on November 3rd. I love everything that you're doing. Continue to do all this great work in the community. And again, this will not be our last conversation. So I'm part of the media committee.
Glad to have you.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.